there are some of you out there that are looking at these businesses with these little hard eyes thinking like, oh, that's what I want to be. But what you don't know is you don't know on the back end if what they're doing is actually translating into sales, if it's actually a good return on investment, if they are, I mean, you just don't know any of that.
Hey everyone, welcome to the S.O.B. Marketing Podcast, where we celebrate the S.O.B. that you are, and if you haven't figured it out yet, we mean small-owned business. We don't mean S.O.B.
Listen, we know that as a small business owner, you are working hard on the daily to keep your business fully operational while trying to promote it. And while some days it may feel like the business is owning you, if we're being honest with each other, I bet you would admit that you wouldn't give up the insanity for anything.
Our commitment here at the S.O.B. Marketing Podcast is to give you the real talk, what works when it comes to advertising, marketing, promoting your business, and then what doesn't really work.
And Chelsea and I promise to always keep the conversation real. Hey, business friends, welcome to another episode of the S.O.B. Marketing Podcast. S.O.B. as in small-owned business, not son of a biscuit. I'm here with Chelsea, my wonderful sister and fellow marketeer. So, Chelsea, what topic are we talking about today?
Today, we are talking about competition. Specifically, do small business owners need to be watching their competition? I think this is going to be an interesting one. I think naturally, as human beings, we tend to be pretty competitive. I know sometimes it can be really hard watching other people succeed at things that you're trying to do. And I think it can be a really negative thing if you let it get to you. So we're really going to discuss today, is it worth your time? How should you go about it without finding yourself in that pit of despair? Because you should be doing better, you know?
That's such a great way of putting it, pit of despair, because that's what it gets to being, especially when stuff is not working out for you and you're like, why is this other person that's doing something very similar to what I'm doing having so much success, or what looks like so much success? I mean, we don't know that that's what it is.
Exactly.
And, and it just doesn't seem to be working for me. But I want to share a story with you, Chelsea.
Okay.
Do you know what a frenemy is?
Of course. I completely know.
All right. So in regards to competition, when I was little, I remember I was in elementary school and we had these tests. So for math, I always prided myself. I was really good at math. And we would have time tests. So you would get the sheet of paper, and then whoever was like the quickest, we had this wall that every time we took a test, the names would be up there. So the quickest person, they'd put your name at the top, and then your speed, like how quickly you completed the math test. And I was at the top quite a few times. Okay. And mom, obviously, she's always taught us to be prideful about our work in general, but especially school. So of course she was super proud about that. Well, then she started to notice I was slipping, and she asked me one time, she's like, why aren't you, number one anymore? And I told her because my friend, I think her name was Sarita, she had told me, she was like, hey, like, wait for me, like slow down and wait for me so that I can catch up or whatever. And of course I was a dummy because I was little. I naturally let her, I slowed down. I didn't turn my paper in as quickly. But the whole point of that is sometimes even the people that you think are in your corner, not necessarily in your corner. Right. And so I think that's where part of the discussion too that I want to have today is really how you have to be extremely protective of your time and how that plays into competition, because even people in your life are going to want to at times compete with some of the stuff that that you're doing. And so I think that's where you got to be super protective, kind of like what we're going to be talking about, even with if you're looking at the competition, how can you do that in a way that is effective and proactive as opposed to spurring you into this like wallow of despair.
Exactly. And that's really the first topic that we're going to have right now, which is let's think about and talk about why you are watching your competition. Because if you're looking at your competition and the entire reason you're doing it is because you just want to like scroll through their page and see how they're doing and compare yourself, like that is not a good use of your time. You do not need to be playing the comparison game. If you are going to be looking at what your competition is doing, there needs to be a goal and a purpose behind the time that you spend, because just pulling up their social media, scrolling through someone else's page and comparing what they're doing to you, and they get more likes, they get more interaction, that is not a good use of your time. And as a small business owner, you don't have time to spare to be, again, throwing yourself into this pit of despair. So when you are thinking about looking at your competition and seeing what they're doing, your first step is really going to be you saying, why am I going to take the time to do this? What is my purpose?
Yeah, those are good points. And let me add something to it, some nuance to it. So what's interesting, you've heard me say this before, Chelsea, and use this example. Oh my gosh, do you hear my chicken?
Yeah.
How rude. So part of the reason that you don't want to get into this comparison game is because you don't know the cards that people are showing up with. And what I mean by that is this. There could be a business that is similar to yours that seemingly looks much further ahead of the curve, right? They're further down the road than you are. But what you may not know is how much capital they brought to the table, what resources they had at their, disposal. They could have a daddy that funded their entire business and they have all this money they can use for advertising and marketing and to use the best tools, whatever it is. And here you are starting from scratch, not having any of that, but yet you're comparing yourself to someone that has completely different cards. And I think that's where, I think similar to what you're saying, the other part of it is if you go on Instagram, let's say, and you've heard me say this, Chels, there are people that literally are out there paying for people to comment and to engage with them on that platform. And so you just don't know. You don't see behind that curtain. So comparison just doesn't help anybody. What it does do is it does offer a point of inspiration. If you are looking at what somebody else is doing, it could potentially inspire you to make a spin or to present something in a particular way.
Absolutely. That's a really big why. Why am I going to take the time to look at my competitors? Because maybe I'm stuck in a rut right now and I just can't get the creative juices flowing. Go ahead and look at what they're doing. Do not steal their ideas. Do not steal their content. Just use it as a jumping point to get you to a good place.
Chelsea, I did want to ask you something.
Okay.
All right. So I had this idea for a reel and I'm still going to do it. I feel like the people are coming out with pitchforks because of idea stealing. And let me tell you what kind of spurred this thought. I was scrolling through Instagram and there was a lady who was it was for Valentine's Day. She was making this really cute, craft where it incorporated candy, a cardboard box, but like you made it, right?
Yeah.
And then you gave it to the person. Well, I'm scrolling through the comments and I'm like, wow, that's a really great idea. And the tutorial was well done. I'm scrolling through the comments and there were a lot of people saying like, hey, so-and-so did this first. You need to tag the original person. Yeah. And I was like, wait a second. Like, are we really at the point where now we have this onus on, I don't know, it just seems a little strange to me.
Yeah. I will say here's my take. If you go in and you specifically steal an idea, you're gonna get caught. Like if you actually went and stole the idea, you're going to get caught. If you came up with it creatively, if I see what you mean, and I have an example of this, because this is a good example. Olivia Rodrigo went on SNL and she did this whole act where she was at a tea party and like she's throwing stuff. It was a whole act, right?
Okay, I have to Google this.
Okay, a small artist said that she stole her idea. How do you prove that you've stolen a concept, right? It's a little difficult. Now, she came with receipts and she said, well, her music producer, like the person who produced this entire concept, was following me. And now that I've said, hey, you stole this idea, they unfollowed me. And it's not just the concept, but she does a lot of the same moves as I do in the video. They have the same background characters doing the same movements. And so when she explained all of that, I could see how he probably stole that idea. Do not come after me. I don't know everything about this. I'm just saying that the information that was presented to me made it look like he stole the concept. Again, if you go about something with a negative and deceivious. If you're trying to deceive someone, I feel like you're going to get
I don't
caught.
think deceivious is a word.
What's the word?
Deceitful?
There's gotta be devious. Devious is the word I was looking for. But I meant deceitful too. I combined the two. Look, my point is, if you go with malintent, you're going to get caught. If, let's say, the example that you gave, she did not know, and they came with those ideas from two separate points, a great way that she could go about it is releasing another video and saying, hey, I did not mean to copy her. I came about this my own way. But hey, if you want another example of something that I've done, you can definitely go to this person.
So maybe what would have kind of stopped that chatter before it even started would have been her at the beginning saying, hey, this video is inspired by, and tagging the creator, right? And then maybe showing like a small clip and then putting her spin on it. Because I think that's the gray part for me, is because I consistently think of how people, I don't think there's a such thing as a new idea. I mean, lots of stuff. I mean, very rarely do people get really big new ideas. And so what it is just like iterations of ideas that people have improved on, right? So they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let me make it better. And so that's the part where I just kind of feel like, whoa, like, are we getting to a point? How do we start tracking this? How are people in social media? For me, it's just like this big sea, like how there's so much out there. Like, unless something has gained popularity, the only true way that you can actually catch this stuff is like if you have a popular creator who then someone stole, right? But if it's a no-name nobody, if it's you and me that have 1,000 Instagram followers, ain't no one, I mean, they're not going to be like,
I think that's a good point too. We're saying don't steal ideas, not necessarily because you are going to get caught, but just because, like, don't go about something with ill intent and don't go stealing other people's stuff. Even if you don't get in trouble, you are going to know that you did that. And I think that's just not a good way to run your business. If for some reason people come at you and say, oh, you did steal this idea, again, the likelihood of that happening, we cannot tell you, and we cannot tell you what to do in that scenario. We can just give you some ideas. Like Vivian said, this was inspired by someone. Like I said, oh, I came up with this idea myself. I didn't realize she had created this, but hey, you know what? If you want another iteration, go look at her stuff too.
Well, and it's also smart when you do tag people, because then you get to leverage their audience base too. So there's that too. Do you have a list of emails that you have collected from past buyers that is just sitting there getting dusty?
Are you looking for a way to build a long-term relationship with people so that your small business will stay top of mind for them? Want to increase your repeat sales?
For every dollar spent on email marketing, businesses receive an average of a $42 return on their investment. And with an ROI like that, can you really afford to continue to let that email list sit there and just collect dust?
Joining our Nothing But Emails monthly membership program means that you can sit back and reap the rewards of sending out monthly or bi-monthly communication while we craft the email and send it out on your behalf.
For less than $100 a month, you can capitalize on this. Start today by visiting www.theseasonedmarketer.com/services.
Another great way to go about it and a good why is insight. So let's say you've never done any Facebook ads. You can go to your competition. You can actually look at their past Facebook ads if they've ever done any before. And again, you can get some ideas as to what works or what doesn't. So if you have a marketing initiative or strategy that you are unsure of how it will work in your industry, go look at your competition and see if they have done it. See what happened when they did it. Was the campaign successful or not? How did they go about it?
Yeah, the interesting thing about that to me is I know I am not unique in this. There are times where it's not, I don't know what to call it, because it's kind of like writer's block, but you're not writing.
Yep.
It's for putting campaigns together, putting ideas together. When you're sitting there looking at, the thing I do is, if I kind of feel like I don't know where to start, and I'm like, I kind of in my head have an idea, but like, do I start with the title? Do I start with the verbiage? Should I start with the graphic? Whatever it is. I'm a very visual person. I want to see the full package. And that's when I go on Facebook Ads Library. A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually go on Facebook Ads Library, and there is it's a hub where you can pull up anybody that has done Facebook ads. You type their name in there, and it will populate and show you the ad. It will show you how long the ad ran, and then it will also show you like some metrics with it, right? And so what is really effective is, I don't look within the same industry. I will look at other industries to see what people are doing for not trending, but what's effective. And the reason I do that is because part of the reason, I want to make the point here, the point of marketing is to stand out, not to blend in.
That's a good point.
If you are copying your competitor and you are doing the same style, putting the same communication out there, you're not standing out. And so that's where I think we get in a lot of trouble, because most people will just look in their bubble, in their industry. If you're a dentist, you're looking at what other dentists are doing for ads. So maybe you could look at salons because they're service-based, and you could probably pull some elements out of that, especially if you're trying to be like a high-end dentist, right? A boutique type of dentist.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for you.
Boutique dentists?
Girl, there's boutique everything.
Well,
like you just,
you know what?
You just charge more and say you're boutique, and there you go.
You're right.
So,
my bad.
Well, you have to deliver on the experience, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
You have to deliver the high-end experience. But I do think, why don't we go ahead and can I share with you some of my favorite tools for when you need inspiration?
I love that. Can I share my tool first? Because I only have one and you have multiple.
You sure can.
This is strictly from a content creator standpoint, obviously, because I do our social media. But let me tell you, there are some days where I cannot think of anything. I just scroll through my For You page. Like you were saying, don't look at your industry. I never look at what's going on with other marketers, if I'm being honest.
No, that's great.
Why would I want to see what they're doing? I'm trying to think about small business owners and how I can relate to them. So I just scroll through my For You page. And that way, I'm not going to steal anyone's ideas, because I can take their concept and then change it to work for us. Because let me tell you, sometimes I just cannot. Yesterday was funny. Yesterday I was on a roll. I was shooting content. I had so many videos going. That doesn't usually happen. So I scroll through Instagram. Well, I don't scroll through TikTok because I don't use TikTok. So I scroll through Instagram For You page and I try to get creative.
I'm not even gonna lie. When you were texting me yesterday, I was like, what did this girl smoke this morning? Like, she is productive AF right now. Like, you were
I was on a roll.
you were on a roll. That was great. I think so that's great for the social media platforms, Chelsea, because the thing is, also a little hack or trick that you can do is, let's say that you have a Instagram page for your business and then you have a personal Instagram page. What I like to do is I don't look at stuff from my business page because the algorithm kind of presents to you the stuff that you're putting out there. Like it's wanting you to see more of like the type of stuff you're creating. And that's not what I want. So what I'll do is I'll toggle over to my personal account. And then from there, kind of like you're saying, look at the pages to see, because
I don't use our business page to look at content. I use strictly my personal Instagram to scroll through.
Well, that's because all the bands are on there too. So
what? I'm saying to get
I know the real
creative.
reason.
Okay.
But yeah, well, the other two that I have, so actually I did have one of my points was exactly what you just said, to use the social media platforms. The other thing that you can do is that maybe if you are on each one of these platforms are so uniquely different in the style and the way that they present information. The stuff that is presented on TikTok is done different than the stuff that's presented on Instagram, at least for me. True. That's what I see, right?
Yes.
And so it does help with, let's say, if you're looking for a reel, to spark an idea for a reel that you want to do, toggle over to TikTok and see what type of information is on there. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to directly translate if something is working on TikTok, but what it can do is kind of give you a concept that you can roll with. And I think that's, that's one of the best things you can, is just kind of to cross-populate or, look at those platforms. One of my favorite that I love using is milled.com. Now, MILLED.com. Okay. Milled.com is a huge database. I mean, like huge, for emails that have been sent out. And so what this does is this helps whenever, let's say, we have a client that wants to run a special. And I'm like, okay, graphics is not my strong suit, right? But I can, if I kind of see a style that I like, I'm like, oh, okay, well then I like this element of it. And then I like this coloring, or, whatever it is. So it will help with sparking some creativity when it comes to the graphics part of it, and also the way the information's presented. And so what I'll do is I'll go on there, and I never look within the same industry because I just don't like doing that. But I'll go in. A lot of the ones that I do like the way that they send out their emails are like coffee companies. They are on point with stating benefits very efficiently. And then also their graphics are most of the time hands down. And they're always running specials and stuff. So you just kind of get to see how they're utilizing that verbiage as well. The one thing that it helped me realize, the increase in use, and I had read this, but I think until I went on mill.com and actually saw emails that people were sending out, because what this does is it tells you can type in the search bar the company, and then it will pull up the emails that sent in like the last month, but you could change that calendar to show you like in the last year, last Christmas, whatever it is. And so what's interesting is, and you want to look at what your competitor sent out last Christmas, you could probably find it on here. It doesn't have all of them cataloged, but it's got a big catalog. So what's interesting is I had read that emails, people are using more, this word, GIFs. GIFs. Remember, we had this discussion already.
I remember. And I said that the creator is wrong. It is GIFs. But okay, go ahead.
Okay, well, I'm sticking to what the creator said, and the creator said it's GIFs.
Okay.
So those little animated graphics. those are being incorporated a lot in emails. I had read it. It didn't, just kind of stay with me until I started to see that trend in mill.com when I'm looking through all these emails and I'm like, oh, wow, people are utilizing these in lots of different ways. And so that did
I add gifts to our, when I create our client emails.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the whole thing is, I guess maybe what it did was it was helpful in me seeing and understanding that there was a trend there instead of just reading it and taking someone else's word for it.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I have is, which we already talked about, the Facebook ads library. So if you have not done this, it's a really cool tool. And the way that I like to utilize it is we had a what do you call it? Quiz. Okay. We had an interactive quiz that we were using as a lead magnet to funnel onto our email list. And I was looking to see what the best way was for lead magnets, right? Like what was some of the verbiage that people were using? Yeah. What were some of the call to actions that worked effectively? And I was able to find and piece together some ideas from there just to kind of, take little bits and pieces from what other people were doing. So Facebook Ads Library is another one that I highly recommend if you need inspiration to go in there and take a look at.
Vivian, I do want to make a point. Who actually is your competitor? As a small business, before you go looking at what your competitors are doing, you need to take a second and say, is this person actually a competitor? Are we on the same level? Are they way above us? So let's say you're a small business with 3 employees and you sell candles. Your competitor is not Bath and Body Works.
I was like, please don't say Bath and Body Works. I hate that store.
What? Why do you hate that store?
No, it's too much. It's too much for my senses. I feel like I leave there smelling like I don't even know what.
Yeah, that's fair. But my point is, like, yeah, technically you're competitors, but what they are able to do is not going to be the same as what you are able to do. So comparing the two of you is not going to be it's not going to be an effective use of your time, right? Because you are just looking at something that has more products, more money, more resources. You can still look at them to get creative, like inspiration, but just know that one of their marketing campaigns you probably might not be able to do because you just don't have the resources. So are they your competitor? No, not really. Can you still look at them for inspiration? Absolutely. But just make sure that you are looking at them through the very specific lens of we are two different, very different businesses.
I said something earlier about how you don't know the cards that people are showing up with, right? To like build their business and stuff.
Yeah.
There's this really weird thing to me where I think of this often. Before social media, you're a small business owner. Your competition are the people that you very specifically know are taking sales from you, right? So like the person that is directly selling the same type of product or service or is somehow hindering you from being able to capture that. I just feel like social media has done this really big disservice where we assume that people are doing better than they actually are. Because let me tell you something. There are some of you out there that are looking at these businesses with these little hard eyes thinking like, oh, that's what I want to be. But what you don't know is you don't know on the back end if what they're doing is actually translating into sales, if it's actually a good return on investment, if they are, I mean, you just don't know any of that. So you're comparing, I don't understand how you can compare your business to something to an unknown. You don't even know, you know nothing about, that business. And the reason I also say that is how many, I'm not going to name names. Chelsea, we live in Somerville.
Yes.
Somerville has a downtown area where they have a lot of businesses. That these businesses, because it is in that downtown area, are obviously paying more money for leases.
Yes.
All right. There are times where I drive by and I see a new business pop up and I'm like, oh, you're paying a really high lease for what I know you are not making a whole lot of money off of, because the margins, right? Your profit margins just aren't there. And so I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, gosh, like, I wonder how long they're going to be in business. And I hate to be like that. But recently, just 2 days ago, I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw a notification for one of those businesses that was like, hey, we're so sad to have to share that we're closing our doors.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. And I was sitting there thinking, I'm like, I kind of had foreseen that, just because there's no way, the math ain't mathin'. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I guess that's the thing, is if you get caught up in this whole, let me try to outdo someone, let me do better than them, what are you really competing against? And unpopular opinion, and this is a personal opinion, so to each their own. If you guys don't agree with me, that's okay. There is abundant opportunity and sales out there for everybody. I don't even think you really need to compete with someone. The reason I say that is because people can want the same things. They can want the same product. They can want the same service. They can want totally different experiences. And I'm going to frame this in a very funny light. For those of you that don't know, Chelsea and I have a 15-year age gap.
Yes.
We also are both went to school for marketing. We also both went to the University of South Carolina for marketing. So we went to the same business school. We had different double majors, but we essentially were going to school for the same thing. Chelsea and I both went to the same campus. And we both had very different experiences because we both wanted very different experiences. I wanted to live it up. I wanted to spend my days, my Thursday nights going out for college night, meeting people, doing this and that, right? Chelsea did not want that. Chelsea had no interest in that.
I wanted to graduate a year early, and I did.
Exactly. She got to shave a whole year off of her experience while I was there for the full 4. So we can want the same things, but want completely different experiences. And that is, as a business owner, if you're not out there looking for your tribe, your people that you want to really service well, that's the thing. I don't get it. Kind of like your Bath and Body Works thing. A small candle business that I can walk into and I can, have that personal connection, knowing that the person behind the desk actually made each one of these candles. Melinda down at Cotton Down South, Chelsea, she has this whole, she does these beautiful dough bowls that she fills with candles. Her candles are not candles you find at Bath and Body Works. And she makes those, her business makes those. And she does these scents where, y'all, we live in South Carolina and we love us some sweet tea. She makes a sweet tea scent. Okay. If that doesn't talk to your prime, customer here in South Carolina, I don't know what does. Bath and Body Works, I highly doubt, is ever going to come out with a scent that's sweet tea.
No, absolutely not. And I think this is a great time to say, do you need to watch your competitors? No. To sum up this entire conversation, do you need to be watching them? No, you're absolutely right. You don't have to. If you're going to be looking at what they're doing, here are some tips. But at the end of the day, do you really need to concern yourself with your competitors? No. Focus on creating your community, creating, like you said, your tribe, reaching those people that are going to be your evangelists. Look how far I've come.
I was about to say, you used the word evangelist. Wow. I just had like a proud sissy moment. I was like, no, I taught her that word.
In one of our very first episodes, you said the word evangelist, and I was like, yo, hold up. What are you talking about? And now I can use the word.
Brand evangelist. There you go.
Brand evangelist. Look at us.
And if there's anything that we 100% want you to part with, is the fact that let's be real honest about this. You run a small business, you have such limited time. You have a lot to get done. You're trying to put promotions together, you're trying to manage people, you're out here putting out fires, dealing with complaints every once in a while, trying to keep your customers happy. At the end of the day, do you have the time? Are you willing to sacrifice time that you could be reinvesting back into your business to scroll, to, pine over what someone else is doing, or just to sit there and let it consume you? Like, to me, I would rather not live life that way. I would rather just be, I'll stick my head in the sand and just do what I want to do, right? There could be a place and time for it, but we don't recommend that you do this every day.
Yeah. Well, I think that was a really good conversation. I hope we didn't come off as naggy. Because I feel like that might have been a little bit like, you need to stop scrolling and looking at that's. I mean, you do need to stop doing that, but we're not trying to nag you. We're trying to be helpful and to answer your questions. So, do you need to watch your competition? No, not really. But thank you for listening. If you know anyone, any small businesses that might really benefit from listening to these conversations, go ahead and send them our podcast. And if you have any questions, you can comment on any of our social media posts. You can send us an email at help@theseasonmarketer. Please make sure you subscribe. Make sure you leave a 5-star review. That's really helpful as well. It shows people that we're being useful. We're actually giving you sound marketing advice. But go out there and just be the best SOB you can be.